Hey, good evening and welcome to my channel. This is the Holding On Together channel and my name is Hazel, and I am the author of Holding On Together series of books. Two in the series of six has been written so far. So that's Holding On Together, Prayers for Couples Under Pressure, and Holding On Together, a guided workbook. And all the books can be found on Amazon and other good online booksellers right across the world. Actually, even last week, somebody told me that they bought the book in India. So wherever you are, the books are available to you. And this evening, I'm here to discuss with you very quickly some warning signs and what to look for if your relationship is sliding into a disconnect. And I wouldn't necessarily say if your relationship is in trouble, but definitely if your relationship is sliding into a disconnect. And the first one on my list is communication. Now, as the human family, communicating is one of the major things that builds our relationships in every single thing that we do on this planet. We need to be able to communicate. You communicate at work, even when babies are first born, they communicate by crying, they communicate with their eyes. They look for communication from the mother, a connect from the mother or from the father, through the eyes, through the face, through how we smile. Communication is so important, and we all communicate with not just our mouths. There are people that think that their communication is just through their mouth, and they talk too much and they don't use their ears enough. But actually, as my mother used to say, communication is actually more about listening than it is about talking. Now, as a couple, if you notice that your communication is quietly disconnecting, you still talk, but your conversations are not really as deep as they used to be. They're not going anywhere. You share a home, you share a life, and life is lifing. I mean, let's face it, life is lifing for us all. It's so busy, and especially if you're a household with children, life is really lifing. Trust me. My husband and I grew up 5 children. We now have 10 grandchildren. And so it's a busy household. Life was lifing when they were all here with us. But somewhere along the line, you have noticed that you have stopped hearing each other. Remember at the beginning, I said to you that one of the most important things is hearing. Hearing is a bigger part of communication than speaking. But your conversations are no longer leading anywhere. They're no longer meaningful. Conversations seem shallow and monosyllabic. And as I said, you're sharing a life, but life is lifing. But somewhere along the line, you have stopped truly hearing each other, truly connecting to each other. You may be even sitting on the same sofa in the same room, and one is on the phone. I was speaking to a couple recently that said to me that their spouse is sitting on the sofa with them, but the spouse is actually communicating with ChatGPT and Claude and other AIs more than her husband was communicating with her. And that's not good. AI is taking the place of your spouse, is taking the place of connect. And there are times that, people are lonely and they need to use other things to connect and so forth. But really, AI is taking over your conversations. Now, what does it look like to have a disconnect in your conversation. You are still talking, but you're talking about the logistics of your daily life. You're talking about your bills. You're talking about the plans for the children, what needs doing. But there is no meaningful depth to your conversations. Your conversation is fading away. You know, you remind me of a couple sitting at a table in a restaurant and seriously having nothing to talk about. They're just silent. They're eating, and that's it. There is no facial connection. There is no connecting with your eyes. There is just no connection. The lack of connection causes there to be monosyllabic conversations. So you need to stop and take stock. What is really happening underneath this lack of communication? And why has your communication stopped? Why has your connection disconnected? Over time, and most couples will move from sharing themselves to simply just managing life together instead of sharing themselves. But the thing is, in the beginning, you shared yourself. You know, you sat together on a sofa across from each other at a table, you know, and you were smiling, you were laughing, you were communicating with your face. Don't let that happen to your relationship. Stop and take stock. So if your communication has slowed down, take some time out. Take some time out to reconnect. You know, go for a walk. We've got lovely areas to walk where we live, you know, and so we often go for long walks together. We go, you know, feed the swans on the lake. Do whatever it is that causes you to reconnect with your spouse. You know, remember the reason, things that made you laugh. Do more laughing together, but you really need to stop and take stock and reignite the curiosity. And make sure that you are listening and not just assuming, not just making assumptions. Sometimes it's not even a conflict that's causing this disconnect, but really it is a neglect. You are neglecting each other. You're neglecting your life together and neglecting the reason that you connected in the first place, the reason that you're together. Your life is busy. All our lives are busy, but don't allow neglect to creep in and rob you of the richness of your communication with each other. Don't let fatigue and routine take over. And why does this matter? When couples stop feeling heard, they stop feeling safe to open up. So if I don't feel that my husband is listening to me, then I actually feel disconnected from him. And then I may not want to open up and share what's really going on. And when that happens, you know, you begin to withdraw emotionally from each other, and without realizing it, boom, you know, you're going into the same bed, and you know, good night, turning your back on each other. That's it. You know, that's not good enough. Don't let that happen to your conversation. So I will see you on the next video, and we're going to be talking about emotional distance creeping in between you.